On a cold Christmas night in Boulder, Colorado, 1996, a dream turned into a nightmare. 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey, a child beauty queen, was brutally murdered inside her own home. This isn't just a crime story, it's a chilling saga of shattered innocence, a bewildering investigation, and a quest for justice that, even decades later, remains tragically unfulfilled. This is the case that refuses to stay buried. To understand the profound impact of JonBenét's death, we must first understand the world she inhabited. Boulder, Colorado, in the mid-90s was largely perceived as an idyllic, safe community. The Ramsey family, John, a successful businessman, Patsy, a former beauty queen, and their children, Burke and JonBenét, embodied a certain American dream. JonBenét, with her bright eyes and captivating smile, had become a fixture in the competitive world of child beauty pageants. To many, she was a symbol of youthful ambition and charm. Her life, meticulously documented in photos and pageant videos, presented a public image of perfection. But behind the glittering facade, a horrific darkness was about to descend. The morning of December 26, 1996, began with an unimaginable discovery. Patsy Ramsey awoke to find a 3-page handwritten ransom note on her kitchen staircase. The note, addressed to John Ramsey's company, demanded an astonishing $118,000 for JonBenét's safe return. It explicitly warned against contacting the police, threatening dire consequences if the instructions were not followed. In a state of utter panic, Patsy, defying the note's explicit warning, called 911. Her frantic call, preserved on tape, remains a haunting testament to a mother's terror. What unfolded next would become a critical and intensely scrutinized chapter in this perplexing mystery. Police arrived swiftly, but the initial response was far from standard protocol for a kidnapping. Friends and family members were allowed to congregate at the Ramsey home, essentially turning a potential crime scene into a chaotic gathering. Crucial evidence may have been unknowingly contaminated or even destroyed in those early, bewildering hours. The assumption was that JonBenét had been abducted, and the focus remained on awaiting further instructions from the supposed kidnappers. But JonBenét was never taken from the house. Hours into the investigation, with no further contact from the alleged kidnappers, John Ramsey was reportedly advised by a police detective to search the house himself, particularly for anything unusual. It was then, in the family's basement wine cellar, that he made the horrific discovery. JonBenét's small body. She had been covered by a white blanket, her mouth taped shut, and her wrists bound. The ransom note, the elaborate demands, the hours of anxious waiting, it had all been a macabre deception. JonBenét had been murdered within the very walls of her home. The immediate implications were staggering. No forced entry had been found. The perpetrator, it seemed, had either been let into the house or had already been inside. The focus of the investigation narrowed dramatically. The parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, and their then 9-year-old son, Burke, instantly became the primary suspects in the eyes of the public and initially the police. The autopsy revealed disturbing details. JonBenét had suffered a fractured skull and had been strangled with a garrote fashioned from a paintbrush handle and a cord. There were also signs of sexual assault. The combination of these findings, coupled with the staged ransom note and the compromised crime scene, fueled intense speculation and a media frenzy unlike anything seen before for a child murder case. The ransom note itself became a central enigma. 3 pages long, written on a pad found within the Ramsey home using a pen also from the house, its content was highly unusual. It contained oddly specific financial demands, $118,000, precisely the amount of a bonus John Ramsey had recently received. It also included peculiar phrasing, referencing foreign factions and small foreign faction, and warned against contacting police in a highly dramatic tone. Experts debated whether the note was a genuine attempt at extortion or an elaborate attempt to misdirect investigators. The length and detail of the note suggested the writer had ample time, raising further questions about who could have written it inside the house without detection. The Ramsey family's behavior further complicated matters. Their initial refusal to undergo separate police interviews, their hiring of high-profile defense attorneys, and their decision to participate in media interviews before speaking extensively with investigators were viewed with suspicion by many. While their legal team argued they were simply protecting themselves from an aggressive and biased investigation, the public perceived their actions as indicative of guilt. This created an adversarial dynamic between the family, the police, and the public, hindering trust and transparency. In 1997, John and Patsy Ramsey sat down for a highly publicized interview with Barbara Walters, vehemently denying any involvement in their daughter's death. They maintained that an intruder was responsible, a theory that gained some traction among their supporters. However, without any clear evidence of forced entry, and with the presence of the ransom note written inside the home, the intruder theory faced significant skepticism from law enforcement. As the investigation stalled, new elements emerged that continued to baffle. One of the most critical pieces of evidence, and perhaps the most frustrating, was DNA. While DNA evidence was collected from the crime scene, particularly from JonBenét's underwear, its interpretation and significance have been a source of continuous debate. Early DNA analysis was inconclusive, yielding a mixed profile. However, advancements in forensic technology years later allowed for a more precise analysis, revealing an unknown male DNA profile on JonBenét's underwear. This unknown male DNA became a game-changer. In 2008, the Boulder District Attorney's Office officially cleared John and Patsy Ramsey, stating that this DNA evidence was, quote, consistent with the conclusion that an unknown male committed the murder. This exoneration, however, didn't lead to a swift arrest. The DNA profile did not match anyone in the National CODIS database, leaving investigators with a crucial clue but no clear suspect. Patsy Ramsey, tragically, never lived to see her official exoneration. She died of ovarian cancer in 2006, having lived for a decade under the dark cloud of suspicion. John Ramsey and Burke Ramsey continued to advocate for an intruder theory, hoping the DNA evidence would finally lead to the real killer. Over the years, countless theories have been proposed. Beyond the parents did it and intruder theories, others have suggested a pedophile ring, a disgruntled employee of John Ramsey, or even a local disturbed individual. Each theory, meticulously examined by amateur sleuths and professional investigators alike, has had its proponents and its detractors, but none have definitively solved the puzzle. The media's role in the JonBenét Ramsey case cannot be overstated. From the moment the story broke, it became a national obsession. The image of the child beauty queen, combined with the wealth of her family and the bizarre circumstances of her death, created a perfect storm for sensationalized reporting. Every detail, every rumor, every misstep by investigators or the family was amplified, shaping public perception and arguably impacting the investigation itself. The pressure to solve such a high-profile case was immense, and the lack of resolution only intensified public frustration. Decades have passed, but the case of JonBenét Ramsey continues to haunt America. The unknown male DNA remains the most promising lead, yet it has, thus far, yielded no answers. The Boulder Police Department insists the case remains an active investigation, with new technologies and forensic advancements offering a glimmer of hope. They have periodically re-examined evidence, pursued new leads, and continue to receive tips from the public. The legacy of JonBenét Ramsey is one of enduring mystery and profound sadness. It is a stark reminder of the complexities of crime, the fallibility of initial investigations, and the enduring pain of unresolved justice. For millions, JonBenét's murder represents not just the loss of an innocent life, but a disturbing failure to identify and punish her killer. Her story resonates deeply because it taps into our primal fears, the vulnerability of children, the sanctity of the home, and the shattering of innocence. As new generations come to know her story, the question persists: who killed JonBenét Ramsey? Will technology, new evidence, or a breakthrough confession ever bring closure to this enduring American mystery? The case remains open, a chilling testament to a crime that refuses to stay buried. If you're as fascinated by unsolved crimes and real American mysteries as we are, be sure to subscribe to American Mystery Vault, because some cases refuse to stay buried.